Hello and welcome to CricketOMania. The big question we're asking today is why are so many bowlers being hauled up for suspect bowling actions? Ayaz, before we begin, what is a suspect bowling action?
Well, look, according to the laws, the arm must be straight at the point of delivery.
Yeah.
Then it was revised to give them a 15 bowlers, a 15
Yeah, what is that
flex.
15 degree? Can you show it?
So what happened was, after various studies were done and research showed that the best bowlers actually had a natural flex. And because of the Mutaya Muralitharan case, where he had a kind of a defect, so to speak, which was, he was born with it. And therefore, they worked out that a 15-degree flex, up to 15 degrees if the arm is bent, then it is considered to be acceptable.
Right.
So anything between 0, I mean, you won't have 0, but some flex is always there.
Yeah.
Up to 15 is fine.
Yeah.
Then, obviously, what happened is it spawned all kinds of, other problems, because how do you, first of all, how does the umpire on the field measure 15 degrees?
Right, yeah.
It's an approximation.
This obviously happens post facto, or no?
The flex was always there. Earlier, the umpires, through sheer visual experience, either called a bowler or didn't call a bowler.
Okay.
And then, if they called a bowler, the bowler went in for corrective measures and then came back and he was passed or not passed.
Right. So, Sunil Narine, of course, KKR West Indies mystery spinner, was hauled up for that one action at the Champions League. But in the past, Sachitran Senanaike, Kane Williamson, Saeed Ajmal, the big guy, banned by the ICC. Then even more, Prenelan Subrayan, Mohammad Hafiz, Adnan Rasool, all reported.
The West Indies bowler, off spinner.
So since June 2014, 7 bowlers have been reported. The Pakistan board has identified 16. So what's happening?
So I think this is a very important. There are two facets to it. One is that you find a lot of them, or most of them, are off spinners, and they're trying. Most of them are now trying to bowl the Dsouza or Teesra or whatever else, some variation that they want to bring in. Emerging from the Muralitharan experience, because he could get away with the 15-degree flex and do whatever. So Ajmal, Sunil Narine, all of them, and in the effort to bowl the non-regular off-spin delivery, they're getting to bend their elbows far more than is is acceptable.
Okay.
The other is that I think somewhere the ICC has empowered the umpires to take stringent action, because suddenly you found a spate of bowlers, including the big fish like Saeed Ajmal and Sunil Narine now being reported for a suspect action.
Right. But Saeed Ajmal has been banned by the ICC, but that's, really drastic, isn't it?
Because it was found he had a 40-degree flex.
Right. And many balls were bowled in that manner.
He had not a single legitimate delivery.
Correct. Right. Dilip Dsouza, now also an author on cricket, which we will of course discuss at a later date. Tell us, what do you think of this?
If I can, Govind, a couple points I'd like to make. One is, for one thing, this bowling that we're talking about, the angle, the 15-degree angle, I think is almost a natural thing. When you bowl, it's almost natural that you do that kind of motion. And the reason I'm telling you this is that when we play tennis, there's a particular motion in serving called pronation of the arm, which you're told to do. And the best coaches tell you it's a very natural motion of the arm, and you have to do it to get that particular snap into your serve. So and they say don't try to do it. Think about it. It just happens normally as you toss your arm forward. So I think that's what's happening with these spinners, and I think in some ways it's a pity that you have to come up with figures like 15% to define it.
So I was going to ask you, Dilip, the mathematician in our present company, is that 15 degrees a good number or not?
It's a small number. It's a number that you can just detect as an angle, but without it being very steep. So it's not a straight line, but it's not a really bent line either. So I think it's been a number picked out of a hat so that somebody can see it on the field. That's what it is. But the other point I want to make is that I feel like nobody is making a point about an action like Lasith Malinga's. If you've seen, he bowls completely sidearm. In fact, there are some times I've watched him playing and the umpire raises a finger to say he's out. The umpire's motion is even straighter than his to raise his finger to say he's out. How come sidearm bowling like that is not considered legal? It's like throwing the ball, Ayaz, do you have any views on that?
So Dilip, it's an interesting point you've raised. I think where Malinga is concerned, the ICC or whatever, the authorities have taken a position that he has a slinging action, but it's not a bent arm action. That's the position they've taken. You've had bowlers with a round arm action earlier, not completely side on. So,
but I think that if you go back into the history of cricket, cricket said that bowling is going to be overarm, and your arm comes over touches the ear as you bowl.
No. It had to be above shoulder level. You see, earlier when there was underarm bowling, it was below shoulder level.
Right.
Here it has to be above shoulder level. In Malinga's case, maybe it is just about 10 degrees above shoulder level.
Yeah, there you are.
Or 15 degrees. He's got a 15-degree variation in the other direction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But
so those are the points I wanted to make.
Where chucking is, by law defined is when you have the elbow bent at the point of delivery.
Yeah.
So you might have a round arm action where the elbow is not bent, and that is permissible. That is a legitimate delivery.
Right. So the larger question we're obviously asking here, Ayaz, you said there is a off-spinner kind of bias in all of this. There is a skew in off-spinner, but yet the numbers seem high. So is this suggesting something else? I mean, a certain desperation, a lack of skill, or?
No, I think it's bad habits. You see, what has happened is bowlers like Murugavel Tharan, who's an all-time great, 800 plus wickets. I mean, you look at almost every off-spinner who's come from Sri Lanka has run into a problem.
Okay.
Almost every off-spinner who's grown, watching Murugavel Tharan, because one of the things that Murugavel Tharan did most successfully was to bowl the wrong one or the Dsouza, and then of course there was Saklan Mushtaq, and after that Saeed Ajmal. So spin bowlers, and especially off-spinners who can otherwise be played, most right-hand batsmen can play them.
And we're showing these pictures. You can see Sachitra Sen and IK and so on.
Yeah. So these are guys who, struggle to get wickets without these variations. So the guy with the cleanest action in recent years, an off-spinner, was Graham Swan. He's no longer playing international cricket. But otherwise, you've had problems with all.
So you're saying bad habits.
Even Harbhajan Singh had a problem. He was sent, to go and correct his action, came back and played for a length of time.
Okay, so you're saying bad habits is one reason, and influence. I mean, at least in the case of the Sri Lankans.
And if those bowlers were never called and they became hugely successful, then youngsters, unless they are stopped in their tracks by the coaches or the administration, like Pakistan has done now, 15 or 16 young bowlers have been banned. That's because they realize that in the wake of Ajmal and Saklan, everybody is bowling like that, and they might not have a future in the game.
Right. So therefore, it also, I mean, looking at it from the other side, it also means that the authorities are getting tougher.
They have to.
As they should.
I think that it's a two-pronged thing. One is that the ICC has to be clear as to what it wants and therefore implement it or influence it. You've had umpires for the last 10 years hesitant to call bowlers because they were not sure.
Right.
Now it seems that the umpires are emboldened, empowered, and therefore they are at least sending them for correction or reporting them for suspect action.
Right. Dilip, how do you see it? Is it the boards which are getting tougher, like in the case of the Pakistan Cricket Board, or separately the ICC, or is it that there is, I mean, more cases happening and therefore everyone waking up?
If you're asking me something, I can't hear you.
The question was that, is it?
Your sound.
Yeah, sorry. The question was, Dilip, is this because the boards are getting stricter and therefore there is and preemptive in the way they are reacting to this form of bowling?
Sorry, I can't see hear anything.
Okay, good. So we'll come back, Dilip, the moment we fix that. Tell me, of the cases that you've seen, Ayaz, which are the ones which are really dramatic and in your mind shouldn't have even slipped through?
Well, Saeed Ajmal seems to be one of those cases because
so therefore the reaction is also rightful.
Yes, because it seems that his flex is about 40%, for 40 degrees, and not a single delivery that he bowled of the several of, say, if he's bowled 1 over, not one delivery was found to be right. In some cases, for instance, Johan Botha, the off spinner from South Africa, was told not to bowl the Dsouza. Somebody is told not to bowl the regular off spinner or change his action because not all deliveries were illegitimate. Some were.
Okay.
In the case of Sunil Narayan, his faster delivery has been reported. Not all his deliveries.
Right.
But in Ajmal's
the fastest
case,
delivery, actually.
The fastest delivery.
Yeah.
But in Ajmal's case, it seemed that every delivery later on was shown to be illegal.
Right. Dilip, I don't know if we've got you back, but would you draw any linkage between these deliveries? Okay, we're going to come back. Ayaz, is there a link between these kind of deliveries and the nature of the game? I mean, I'm talking about the T20s and the one days and so on. Is that causing some distortion?
It is actually for survival, especially for slow bowlers who can get hit out of the park so often. The survival strategies have to try and do something different.
Okay.
Batsmen also tried. They do a switch hit and stuff like that. And you might well argue that if a batsman can change his stance, grip and everything and play a switch hit, why can't a bowler be allowed a little flex? But that's an argument for another day. But bowlers have, especially slow bowlers, necessarily to try out many more things from format to format. And this is where these kind of problems are creeping in. Now, it needs to be addressed at a very junior level and at the ICC level, because either you decide there's 15-degree flex, how is it measured, not measured, and therefore why are these bowlers?
But is it the case, Ayaz, that in some of these, with some of these players, that if they were to change back to something more acceptable in the traditional bowling way, the way Dilip was defining, that they would actually become irrelevant or not be able to deliver in the same way?
No, yes and no. I think a lot of corrective measures can be taken. Some bad habits linger, even if you may have become a very fine bowler. I mean, Harbhajan Singh took 400 plus test wickets. When he started out, he had a problem. Later on, he seemed to have overcome his problem, or he did, and therefore he got 400 wickets. There are interesting arguments. A Puritan like Bishan Singh Bedi says, ban them. This is the old school. Somebody like Rahul Dravid, who's played contemporary cricket, he doesn't find it as, alarming.
Reprehensible.
He doesn't find it even. He says bowlers bowl no balls, but you don't ban them. They may bowl 3 no balls in an over. Sometimes bowlers bowl 4 no balls in an over. So he's saying you call the guy, let the umpire call him for chucking, let his captain decide. After 3 calls, he may be sent off the field, or he starts bowling the regular delivery, which is not going to be called.
Right. So in which case then why, just to sort of put things in context for those who are watching this, so why then get so uppity about?
So I think what has happened is, one is, I think, a bit of a backlash, because nothing has been done for 10 years. Suddenly umpires, either they've been told that, start moving. The other is that because it's becoming endemic. In every country, you find bowlers are having this problem in the age group of, say, 12 to 25. Those who have just started playing junior level in Pakistan, first class level, and young cricketers who are playing international cricket. And therefore, if all these bowlers start becoming chuckers, then it might, the ICC feels, or the authorities feel, it might really create a big mess. So they've started tackling it at 2 levels. I think they've told the boards, junior level, coaches, crack down. The other is at the senior level, umpires, get in right now, start correcting.
It's also, is there a sense, we touched upon this, as you have these new formats and the increased pressure, that people are forced to or compelled to, bring in the maximum aggression with the maximum experimentation in technique because they want to achieve something very quickly?
Yes, I think it's happening because of that. The pressures of playing all 3 formats, if you want to play, are enormous on every player, batsman or bowler, but it gets more pronounced in the case of the bowler because it's a batsman's game. You get hit for 4 sixes in an over in a T20 match, you might lose your position in all 3 formats. A batsman is that way far a little luckier.
Right. Dilip, I think we've got you back. The question we were asking is, is the format causing the problem, in some ways, or the different kinds of formats, the new formats, putting more pressure on bowlers to do things which they perhaps would not have done in normal course?
Exactly as I heard Ayaz just saying, I think the T20 and ODIs, particularly T20, put so much pressure on the bowler because the odds are so stacked against him. I think that's such a pity. So naturally, they're trying all kinds of different ways to get wickets because otherwise they're just being hit for runs by batsmen who don't care about what kind of stroke they hit or anything. Anything a bowler bowls the strike game to be just bad. So they're trying all kinds of different things. And maybe that raises an issue. Maybe there should be some. What about rules for the batsmen? Are there illegal actions for batsmen? Maybe we should be thinking about that.
Yeah, and
certain kinds of strokes should not be allowed.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Ayaz was saying, right? If batsmen can, do the switch and the flip and all of that.
Exactly.
That is seen as making the game more entertaining.
Yeah.
Obviously, the batsman is taking a risk.
Right.
But he's seen as, it's a spectacle. People will love it, and therefore they will watch more of the cricket.
Right.
But that's not the argument used.
And it doesn't sound very logical either. So, Dilip, what do you think we should be done? Is it Are you in? I mean, are you in agreement with the way the boards are responding to this, which is getting tighter and stricter about it and censuring players, or the Dravid kind of view that Ayaz articulated? Deal with it at the field. Maybe like a yellow card or something, send the player off, but not necessarily come down so heavily.
I really think that's true. It has to be less drastic than seems to be happening. Otherwise, all these wonderful bowlers are being lost to the game one way or the other. Saeed Ajmal, Sunil Narayan. I mean, these are treasures. You don't find bowlers like that so often, especially spin bowlers. I think there are rare good spin bowlers, and you should be nurturing them, not trying to push them out of the game. And I feel like this is going to do that. It's heading in that direction. Sunil Narayan and what's his name, Shillingford, are probably the West Indies' best spin bowlers of the last few years. And if they're both going to be lost to cricket, I think that's a big loss. So I think there should be some way it works out to deal with it on the field.
Right. Okay. Ayaz, last words on this?
I think that the cricket administrators really need to take a call whether some amount of flex or deformity or a poor action, in their words, is going to be permissible or not going ahead. I agree with Dilip there. Sunil Narayan, Saeed Ajmal, they brought a lot of flavor to the game. But if it's in complete contravention, like it happened in Ajmal's case, if the flex is 40 degrees, and as one batsman I know said he was throwing javelin, it was a javelin throw aimed at me, not a delivery, then there are issues. So between Ajmal and Sunil Narayan, there's a huge gulf. Sunil Narayan's one delivery is found to be suspect. In Ajmal's case, all 6 are. He has promised to come back within a year. Okay. He says, I will correct my action and come back. He's 36 years old. Already. May not be easy.
Yeah, and there's a question here which is interesting. I mean, would this crackdown in some way discourage kids from taking up bowling or young cricketers from taking up bowling?
Well, that's the flip side. I mean, the argument that the ICC is using or cricket boards are using is it will encourage bowlers, young bowlers, and kids to bowl the right way.
Okay.
So coaches have to really impress on them that this is not the way to bowl, this is the way to bowl. So, I don't know whether that argument alone holds. Maybe there are two sides to it.
Like everything else. Dilip, last word on this. Which way would you want the ball to be bowled?
I really would like it to be bowled. I mean, as we've discussed before, I'm a classicist when it comes to cricket. Yeah. I want classic actions. I don't want people to be chucking. Yes, it's true. But I don't want to lose wonderful players. You have to find a way to keep good players in the game, because otherwise there are too many players who look the same, cookie cutter players. I was really sad that Shane Bond was lost to the game for other reasons, of course. And I don't want to lose these great bowlers.
Right.
So
Right. Thank you. Thank you both.
So yes. Just to spell it out in medical jargon, there are 3 ways to deal with it.
Yeah.
One is that you send them to an infirmary.
Yeah.
The other is you send them to ICU.
Yeah.
And hope they come back alive. And the third is just bury them.
Okay.
So depending on the seriousness of this
thing, you can find the right medicine. Dilip, you've got a book coming up, and we're going to talk about it in our next CricketOMania with you in our studio. A quick line from you on the book and what it's about.
Okay, it's a book. It's called Final Test Exit Sachin Tendulkar. So on the face of it, it's a book about the last test that Sachin played about a year ago, last November. But I like to think of it as a kind of template, as a format that is used to talk. It's a play-by-play, but it's also a ball-by-ball, but also talks about cricket more widely, the country more widely, the way things have changed in these 25 years of Sachin's career.
Right, Dilip, and look forward to that discussion with you, which I'm sure will be fun. Thank you once again, Ayaz, and we've had a fun time talking about which way the ball should be bowled. Last action, Ayaz?
Well,
what is the ideal?
Govind, everything you do should be straight.
Everything should be straight.
Nothing better.
That's the best way to put it. Thank you, folks, for watching. We'll be back on CricketOMania later this week, same time.